I can feel their true essence. I could just feel it. I just feel it so strongly. And then writing those songs is the best way of expressing that. So in terms of the technology, it's really grateful that that type of technology is available now, because it's just such a powerful thing to be able to do that. And then the technology is getting better and better. I feel some of those AI songs are better than ones that humans make. They're that powerful. They are. I mean, they're just, and then the other thing is like, it doesn't have to be about shooting someone or like something negative. It can be, a lot of the music industry is extremely negative because it's run by narcissistic people trying to sell stuff, and sale means dull and dirty.
Welcome to Remember You, another episode brought to you by Practice Peace. I am here with Justin Breen from Epic Journey. He's a visionary entrepreneur and best-selling author. I am very excited to introduce this audience to you and get to discover more of how we can live our own epic journey, which is a book that you just launched, and obviously are a best-selling author, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. To start off, though, can you just tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, who've never met you or heard about you?
Very grateful to be here. And that's a really good question. I found if you ask people that question, many times folks just kind of pause, and because they don't really look in the mirror or run away from their own reflection. So in human years, I'm 49 years old, and I guess I'm still trying to figure that out. But, the two things that I've found incontrovertible in life. One is that you can't fix anyone. They have to be willing to, look into their own heart. And then two, if you love somebody, you tell them. I don't know if that answers your question, but those are the only two things I've really, really learned.
It answers, because really what Remember You is all about is remembering who you are underneath it all. And I came out of an ayahuasca journey that we about a year ago. And Remember You came out of it. And at the time, I gathered 3 other people. So there was 4 of us being hosts of the show. And all I could get from a message over 3 days were kind of, it was 3 different messages, but all very much the same, that we go through death and rebirth and multiple times in our lifetime here on earth. And love and seeing the fruits of your labor are the most important thing in this life. And so I saw myself as a lotus flower one time, and it was just all loving, and it was showing me how to love myself, because I had very deep issues with abandonment. And so I was always pushing myself out to other people and putting my self-worth, right? And then I was always worried about not being a good mother. And the mother came to me and showed me all this beautiful fruit and told me that each person that I have dealt with, whether it's ended good or bad, it was still a beautiful part of this whole life. So that's a little bit about me and why we created Remember You. So resonates with you or not.
That's so, until someone is willing to look into themselves or do that type of work, then the rest of this stuff is just a mask. I mean, I guess what I'm here for is to listen to answers like yours. I mean, you answered your own question, and then I just kind of sat here and listened. And then I'm here to listen and then simplify that into a pattern and then write about it, or, create a song or a company that actually helps people. And then this lifetime is, this living body life, I guess, is okay. But, I'm really concerned about creating something that outlasts that and goes well beyond that. And then, that's definitely what this book is. It's very interesting because I haven't found the exception to this yet, but, a lot of these books that really made an impact, the author or authors that wrote them, it didn't necessarily resonate in their lifetime. It took a generation or two for it to make an impact, because for the most part, people weren't ready yet.
That's interesting.
Been okay with that.
Yeah, it's like the book Outwitting the Devil.
Well, that's so much better. So Okay, so you're a high level, feeler and thinker. So everybody likes Think and Grow Rich. Outwitting the Devil's 100 times better. I mean, it's
Yes, it
most
is.
people don't know, and again, Machiavelli's The Prince, people like Hemingway, Kierkegaard, Albert Camus, like killed in a car accident at the peak of his career. So it's like, The Little Prince, the author of that, died in a plane crash right after that came out. So, it's not a fatalistic view. It's just, are you willing to like not think about your life in the, in the present? Are you willing to create something that goes beyond that? And I've become okay with that for sure.
Good. So in terms, you talk a lot about visionaries. So I watched some of your other podcasts. I read some of your stuff. What does being a visionary really mean to you?
Great question. I mean, if you had asked me that a couple weeks ago, I would have had a different answer, or even a few days ago. I'm pretty sure this is the first interview I've done since the book actually came out. I'm glad to be doing this now. Well, the person who invented kindergarten, so it was invented in Prussia or whatever, Germany used to be called Prussia. So kindergarten was invented, and then the government banned, or the king banned kindergarten, because it went against the church. The inventor of kindergarten, he pleaded for the king to like, don't ban this. Like it's, this is good for children. And then he died. And then, they got rid of the ban after he died. And then one of the inventor of kindergartens, his like great grandchild or granddaughter is running one of the schools that he started. So that to me is being a visionary. Like you're so far ahead of other people, and that no matter what, you just don't give up on it. You just don't, because you see it. And a few times in my life, maybe 3 or 4 times, and this epic journey book is, for me, it's the ultimate example of that. I just saw something, and that no matter what, I'm just going to go through with it all the way to see what happens. Like I just will not stop, no matter what anybody says, no matter what happens, because my heart, it's just so, maybe this answers your question, like the heart of a visionary, not the brain, the heart is so strong that it just will not stop no matter what. You just keep going.
And the heart, when you talk about that, most people, there's a lot of studies out there by like the Heart Math Institute and things like that talk about how much stronger our heart is than our brain. I don't think that's really understood fully by mainstream. And when you look at, I'm going to use a horse because they have the biggest electromagnetic field around their heart. That's why they're used for healing, and especially they're really good for children who are depressed and things like that when they're around a horse. Have you
read about the horses I write about in the book yet? Have you gotten to that part?
I have not gotten to that yet.
Fascinating. Wow. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I will. I wanted to finish it, but we scheduled this so close. I didn't have time, and I had a lot.
I did not know that. Yeah, that's why I like doing these interviews, because I always learn something. But that makes sense. And then Secretariat, he had the biggest heart.
Yeah. Now I did read that in your book. So tell me a little bit about the book in general. You have this idea of boundless Dharma. Talk to me about that.
Well, yes. That wasn't. So my publisher, who's the former CEO of Hay House Australia, that was his idea to put Boundless Dharma in the subtitle. He's a really good publisher. Leon's a great guy. He's really been, it took 2 years to get this thing out. It took 2 years of waiting. Patience means suffering, by the way. That's, so if anyone who's read The Little Prince or The Alchemist, it's that, but real. I don't say that lightly. I'm literally risked everything to write this book. It's about following your heart and purpose no matter what, kind of what we talked about earlier. I guess to ground this a little bit, there are a few things that might be helpful for folks that I guess they're assessments, but not really. But one is human design. That one's free. Actually, both of these are free, but human design, so you just Google that. And you just need to know your name, where you were born, what time. what time of day and then what day. So in that one, I'm a manifester, which is extremely rare. Most folks are either projectors, which is what you are, or some type of generator. So they'll take a manifestor's energy and do something with it. And projectors like you ask really good questions. So it makes sense that you're doing a podcast. But so manifestors feel things before anyone else. And then they have to tell people how they feel or express themselves no matter what, and it's to create peace. So the book is an example of that. It's a love letter to people who are ready to look into their purpose. Okay, so that's one assessment.
And let me ask you something. So for the people who don't know about human design or gene keys or anything like that, how do you use those tools to find your life purpose? Like, I think we're the same for our life path. We're both 6'2".
No, that's our human design. So 6'2s are the exemplary human. And so exemplary means highest form of good or total disaster. So there's no gray. And we will blow up our lives sometimes many times for our purpose. Most people aren't like that. They're more of like a thinker, deep investigative thinking kind of thing. But 6'2s, every 6'2 that I know has had at least one really big dark night of the soul, ego death, whatever you want to call it. Liminal space, Carl Jung called it. You're dead. You're like in between two lives while you're alive. So you have an ego death. Okay, you understand. So I'm explaining this so you understand, but then also people that are ready to hear this kind of thing, or also to understand. And then the other one is numerology, which I never believed in any of this stuff a couple years ago. But numerology is your life path, and you just need your birthday for that. So you're a life path 5, which is endless freedom, 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 freedom. Never tell a life path 5 what to do. Oh, no, don't do that. Bad idea. Don't do it. If they find the right person, they'll be extremely loyal, extremely loyal. You have to be really patient with life path 5s. Whew, boy, do you have to be patient.
Hold on, I got a question. Do two life path 5s do well together or no?
Well, I mean, there's not a black and white answer to that. But again, if you find the right person, a life path 5 will be extremely loyal. I know very few examples of 5s I know one couple where they're 5s and they've ended up with each other long term. One, but that's very rare. I'm an 11, which is, I guess it's called a master number. It's extremely rare. Manifestor is extremely rare, and a life path 11 is extremely rare. So life path 11s are called a master visionary. Apparently this is last incarnation on this planet, thank God. But it's funny, but I'm not, it's not.
I was hoping maybe I'd be out 11, but I guess I'm coming back to do something else.
Yeah, you're still, hey, well, I don't know. I mean, who knows? But I think you have some, so life path 11s, the first half of their life, they're double 1 energy, which is masculine, ego, leadership, achievement. Ego, leadership, achievement. Ego, leadership, achievement. Ego, leadership. Okay, so that was the first half of life. Then you have a massive ego death, outwitting the devil, whatever you want to call it. And then the second half of life, you become a life path 2, which is rise of divine feminine, hopeless romantic, extremely sweet and loving, very sensitive. So you're literally combining two people in lives, and it's very imagine that. So I would say this book represents the emerging of second half of life, and then most life path 11s can't handle it. It's too much. This is what I've learned in the last 2 years. It's the most difficult life path, but they're here to create something that helps other people. So that's why I'm here.
So tell me a little, or tell the listeners a little bit about Boundless Communication System that was in your book. How did you come up with that?
That's a great question. Well, I don't know if it was how, or it just kind of like, I just feel everything. Like 11, again, knowing these things, like 11s feel everything, and so do manifestors. So double feeling energy. But basically, how is by listening, and then I guess feeling extremely annoyed why people overthink everything. It's really annoying to me. And you don't
like the data scientists that look at all.
It's not that I don't like it. It's just you're just abandoning your heart, which is much stronger than the brain. I mean, it's one to be aware of that or be annoyed by that, but I'd like to create things that are based on that hopefully people can talk about and at least feel things differently, and then create a book about that. So that's, I guess, how it happened. But really, like, it's like a glitch. Like, I just feel something. It's like like I write songs. I can just feel things in the ether, and then I write a song about it.
It's kind of what you're explaining is, I think a lot of people can resonate with the fact that you find this flow and this kind of higher power, higher self, whatever you want to say it is. And you're getting like a download and it's just coming through you. You're not actually creating it. It's something that needs to be created in this earthly plane, and you're just a vessel.
Well, there's a good book. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote it. It's like, I don't take any credit for any of this. It's just that, something came through, and then, I did something with it, but it came from somewhere else. And then she talks about it in her book, which I agree with her. If you don't do something with it, then someone else will. So I guess we're responsible for doing something with it if it comes to, I guess that's where, like, again, this only happened 3 or 4 times, but if I feel something so strongly, then no matter what, I'll do it. Like, I will risk everything. And 6'2" in human design, they will do that. No, I will risk everything and have to do this, but it's worth it. It is. Because the alternative would be, there is no alternative, but it would just be, I couldn't deal with that, not going all the way with something. I just couldn't do it.
I mean, I'm right there with you. Obviously, it must be my 6'2". I've been through multiple relationships, sold companies because it wasn't resonating with me anymore. And
the word sale means dull and dirty. That's why it wasn't. What it means.
I love that.
Well, business
let's go through some of those. So what does the word sal mean?
Dull and dirty, yeah. And then average means damage to a ship. Business means anxiety. Religion means to bind. I didn't put it in the book because I don't know. It just didn't feel right. But the word family comes from familis, which means a member of a household, staff, servant. So family is essentially a slave system for the women and children. Yeah, that's why that's what it is. You ask most families. But, so we're living in these world of constructs, mostly created by male narcissistic leadership. And then we're, not only taught to believe in that, but it's trumpeted by society. I mean, that's what most things are: sell and business and religion. So that's what we're living in right now. So create something that makes people aware of that, at least.
Yeah, and become unhypnotized. I always say, you're hypnotized either way. So why don't you choose which way you're going to be hypnotized and hypnotize yourself for the good, seeing your boundless energy and your ability to be a, infinite being versus sitting in these boxes that we all like to sit in to play safe, which is ego and all these other things.
Yeah. Well, you're a hypnotherapist, so you unhypnotized yourself. That's a good. And then if you're not a litmus test for people that you serve, that's hypocrisy. I couldn't write a book about ego death or dark night of the soul or going all the way with something if I didn't have an ego death or dark night of the soul or didn't go all the way with something. Now, I guess what I will say is in real time, it's happening right now. So you can't, some people think they can predict the future and some people are pretty good at it, but you don't really know what's going to happen until you see what happens. And for me personally, that's exciting to see what happens. I'd rather live like that than, as you said, be in a box. And then Robert Johnson, he was a Carl Jung disciple. I'm paraphrasing one of his quotes, but he said, for a select few, there's a determination to seek liberation from social hypnosis. There's a determination to seek liberation from social hypnosis, social conditioning. So I completely agree with what you said about people being hypnotized, because that's what that's what has happened. They've been conditioned. So if you're aware of that, it's great to be aware of that, but I'd rather be aware of that and create something that hopefully helps people become unhypnotized.
Exactly. Yes. So tell me a little bit about, are you okay with sharing a little bit more about kind of what's going on in your life with this ego death? So you've had you've had all these great, I guess, wins in your life. And now you're kind of going through what you said. I wrote some things down here. you kind of were in this like masculine version of yourself in the first half of your life. And now you're kind of in the second half going into this more divine feminine place. and for listeners who are like, what the hell is she talking about? We could have both, right? It's
we are both. There's no, and then any man is questioning that they're, XY chromosome, they're half woman. So I hate to break that. I hate to break that. That's just science. But yeah, go ahead.
So tell me what you're going through and if you're okay with sharing with the listeners kind of what it is and how you're working through that with some of the tools that you've collected along the way in life and wisdom,
Sure.
I guess.
Sure. The landing the plane stuff, writing this book, led to an extremely amicable divorce. I live about a mile from where my wonderful ex-wife and two amazing sons live. So the Dr. Deepak Chopra's doing he's done the introduction for the book, which I'm very grateful for. And as the book was approved, there was the whole Epstein involvement. So that all happened on the same day. Book was approved, and then learned about his involvement with the Epstein thing. And I decided to continue having him do the introduction, because it would be the ultimate hypocrisy running from that type of shadow, because everyone has a shadow. Right. And so that would be hypocrisy, which I just don't believe in that. It's been extremely difficult, but I haven't seen the exception where to create something that genuinely helps people that you have to go through something like that. I have not seen the exception to that. If you can provide an exception to that, I would love to know it, but no one has yet. The other thing is just surrendering control of outcomes, which is like, it's really hard. That's the hardest thing to do. But in this case, I'm really trying hard to do that, and then just surrendering control to whatever's supposed to happen is supposed to happen. But as a father, as a human, like, I know my sons are okay. They're 13 and almost 12. They're really good kids. And our relationship is better now that I don't live there full time. My father died when I was 13, and then my oldest is 13. So I'm very aware of making sure I'm present with them. So as a human, that's the most important thing for sure.
So I just thought of something. When we talk about generational wounds, a lot of times cycles repeat themselves. So although you didn't die with your son at 13, and they're both very close, it seems like this is an opportunity for you to heal some of those wounds.
I guess to time frame this, the manuscript for this book was finished in May of 2024, and then it just came out June 2nd of 2026. So 2 years and a month. 2 years. Okay. Which is fun. Okay. And in those 2 years, I guess to further answer your question, dissolved former companies, and then moved out of house and waited for this book to come out. And now in the process of starting new companies. But in the meantime, the main thing I did was listen to people, men and women, and then try and come up with a pattern for generational trauma and then relationships. And to simplify that, just from a man-woman perspective, just to simplify it, from a woman's perspective, and this is from hundreds of discussions like this, but women have been conditioned to be abused, traumatized, mostly by men, but also other women. So it's at a cellular level of trauma abuse. And so that is why they are attracted to men and or women that abuse them. It's at a cellular level. And that was a very painful response by you. So I feel everything. So when a good man or woman comes along, it's like one of my friends calls it a snowflake falling in the summer. So even they push that good man or woman away because I'm supposed to be abused and I've been conditioned. So that's from the woman's perspective. And then from the man's perspective, nothing more painful. I've lived this personally and then talking to many, many men, nothing more painful than unconditionally loving a woman or a man, but we'll just say a woman here. It's easy. And then that's being rejected. There's nothing more painful than that. Nothing. It's the more painful thing. And then that rejection turns into, whatever you want to call it, narcissism or creating a company, or it's got to go, that type of love and has to go somewhere. And so essentially, to simplify that, war, economy, all this stuff really could be mitigated or solved. One, if people love themselves, had a good relationship with themselves, but then also I strongly feel they were with the right person that also loved them and they could love unconditionally. So I strongly feel that the rest of this stuff is a direct result of those two things not being so.
You probably won't know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Maybe you can theorize it. How is a man and a woman, let's just, because it's an easier thing to understand, how do you find the person who's going to love you unconditionally? Or what if you think, that it's that the person is there to do that and you devote a lot of time and energy and then they've chosen or whatever to break that? And you really thought it was that person. Was it the wrong person, or was it a life decision you made before you even came down here?
Wow.
Like, what are your thoughts on it?
You're definitely a projector. Great question. Great question, projector. I identify people by titles and numbers. I had a really good marriage. My ex-wife is a wonderful, wonderful woman. I still love her. I think she still loves me. But I would say our soul contract ended. What I see is most people would stay in a marriage like that for the benefit of their children. I would strongly argue that's the worst thing you can do for your children. But I understand why some people do that for financial reasons. And then going back to the two things I've learned is that you can't fix people. So if someone is not ready for that type of love, then there's really nothing you can do until they're willing to look into themselves, other than you being unconditionally compassionate and loving and patient with them, which is, oh man, that I've definitely learned that. And then in the meantime, also, I guess if you want to call it dating other people, which is what I've also done. But I want to make sure I answer this the right way. If I'm really in love with someone, then I just know, it's within minutes. I mean, seconds, maybe. I don't know. And maybe men and women are different in that regard.
That could also be your manifestor in you, because you feel it before anybody else does.
Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. In the last 2 years, I would say I've really learned what unconditional love is, no matter what. Oof. And it is not, it's really hard. But, I see the good in everybody, but for certain people, I really see who they actually are. Like, I see them beyond their mask. And, you know what? This might actually, this might be helpful, because to ground it or whatever. So it's called attachment. So there's secure attachment. My ex-wife's definitely secure attachment. And then the others are it's either anxious or avoidant or some combination of that. And then I was extremely secure attachment, but then I met some avoidant attachments and I became anxious because I'm I don't understand. A man tries to fix problems. I hate to break that to everybody, but a man really likes to fix problems, but you can't fix you can't. Men can't. So what I've learned is to become secure, and then avoidant attachment. I think 40% of men are avoidant, which is horrifyingly high, and 20 to 25% of women. I actually think it's much stronger with women or higher with, but basically, to simplify that, what avoidant attachment is most people not most, but some people if you love someone, you tell them. But for an avoidant attachment, expressing that is a threat to their very existence, because they think about a puppy that was hit by their owner coming out from under the couch, and then the owner beats up the puppy, so the puppy just stays under the couch. So expressing love is a threat to their their entire being.
I've been really open in terms of saying to people I love you. And it's not in a weird I love you way. I'm not expecting anything, but I really do love you for the experience that you've given me and whatever, experience we've shared together. For somebody that is like that and more open, an avoidant person is going to be what's wrong with her? How could she have her heart so open? It's going to get broken and da, 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 da. And to me, it took a lot of, at least for me, it took a lot of understanding that. And it's a daily thing that I have to go through because I have to catch myself.
Well, you're an empath.
Is, to understand that I have myself. I know that sounds so weird, but I can be attached securely to myself because there's nothing else really out there. And even any relationship that I'm ever going to have in this time is going to end somehow, whether it's because I die physically or that person does, or the relationship ends in some sort of way. Like you said, the contract's up and you can have those memories. They don't go away, but it's safe to be securely attached to yourself.
Well, yeah, that's an extremely powerful thing you said. That's really interesting. Yes, that's the most important relationship you can have with yourself. And why wouldn't you want to have a secure attachment to yourself? But what I've learned is that, most people are either anxiously attached to themselves or avoidantly attached to themselves, which then attracts the wrong, if you want to call it, romantic partner. So if you are securely attached to yourself, then the byproduct more than likely would be then you attract the right person into your life. But until you have that relationship with yourself, then it will be attracting the wrong pattern, partner. Actually, it's interesting that pattern and partner are very similar words. I never thought about that. I'll have to look that up if there's any correlation with pattern and partner. I bet there is. And so you have these patterns playing out and partners playing out over thousands of years. Like this is nothing new. It's just, I would say now with the technology and the ability to have relationships with more people on a global level, that hopefully these patterns will be discovered quicker. And then even more importantly, that solutions to those will happen. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I'm willing to bet everything to see what will happen on that.
So in your book, you talk about geometric shapes and different things like that, right? So like you start off with the triangle. Can you tell me what your thought process was and how you came up with this geometric shapes unlocking consciousness? I know Robert Grant talks a lot about this. So I'd like to get it from your perspective. You talk about the grandmother, the Mother Earth, and the moon, the neutral moon, right?
Yeah.
And then
yes. So he was 9 when he did it. He's 11, almost 12 now. But my younger son, Chase, drew that. So,
that's cool.
Yeah, he's a manifestor. So I've learned that you can learn far more from your children because they haven't been fully conditioned yet. So he drew that when he was 9, and we were talking about bending time and IQ that night. And then I talk about the story behind that drawing later in the book. And then he's a manifestor. He is years before, that kid, both of my children they're wonderful children. Chase is it'd be very interesting to see what he does. So he drew that. But so to actually answer your question, so there's triangles are the strongest shape that you make bridges with triangles. They're the strongest shape. And then the circles, one is divine masculine ego energy. I guess within a company, I would be that. And then if you don't have that balance of the other circle, the divine feminine, like grounding Mother Earth energy, then I would melt everything. I'd destroy everything. And then there's the third one, which is a moon, like a neutral party. They can kind of do everything. So I guess within a company structure, there's like a visionary, the egoic sun, masculine energy. Then there's I guess if you want to call it the integrator, more of the like stabilizer, the Mother Earth feminine energy. And then if you want to call it employees, it's the neutral parties. They can kind of do anything. So that's from a company perspective. From a human metaphysical perspective, it's combining all three of those in yourself. So like grounding yourself and then, hey, I need to take the garbage out today. I need to pick my children up at school. That would be a good idea. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe I should just leave them there. But
it'll help their life path.
Hey, got a text. Where the hell are you, Dad? So that's kind of funny. But
I was in my flow.
It was like, bro, wait, Dad, you're supposed to pick us up yesterday. We're still at school. No, that doesn't really happen. But so it's, it's good to have all three of those in one. And, again, if it's helpful in human design, it takes 50 full years to figure it out. That's when all the wisdom kind of comes out. So I'm negative half a year. I still haven't been born yet. I'm not going to ask how. You're definitely negative something. So it takes 50 full years. So for those folks that are like, I haven't figured it out yet. Well, human design, it takes 50 full years and then if you're like 55, hey, you're 5 years old. So you're fine.
That's cool. That's a good way to look at it. So, all right. Tell me a little bit more about a lot of the podcasts that you've been on and things that you talk about. And you even sent me one of your songs, but I tried to listen to it and it would play for like a second and then it wouldn't let me listen to it. So tell me about music and how you integrate that and what you do with it in your life. And for me, music, my dad was a drummer. And he was really into music, and I grew up around music. I unfortunately didn't become a musician, but when I hear it, it does something for me in terms of I am not like one of those people who says, knows every title and every artist and worships, the famous people. So I just listen to the music and think this is just beautiful. And it's either beautiful for me or it's not. And I know right away what resonates with me. So I guess that was a long way for me to ask, tell me about music and how and what that does for you in your life.
Grounding that, one of the companies that I've helped co-found, it's called Corvia.ai, Corvia.ai. So core is heart, courage, and then via is path, so heart path. And what my partner Eric and I are doing in that is helping people create their own songs through AI. We have found that is the quickest path to self-healing or expressing your feelings. It's really fascinating how beautiful some of those songs are. I'll send you one where you can actually listen to it.
Love moves like moonlight on restless waves. I feel your heart cresting, I see so brave. It's rhythm, hypnotic, eternal. You are perfection, not the fleeting kind.
And then for certain people, I can feel, and including myself, I can feel their energy so strongly that I can just write songs for them or about them or how they're feeling. And then with AI, you don't even need to write your own lyrics. You can just say, here's how I'm feeling today. And it'll spit out. And then the AI makes the music and the vocals. And then I didn't know 2 years ago I could write songs. I had no idea. And then I have a partner for another company. He works in Hollywood with some of the top musicians in the world. And he wants to take some of the songs I've written and have humans make songs. Actual songs. He works with some of the top artists in the world and then does symphonies for movies and things like that. You don't need to be a musician to be a musician, if that makes sense. And then with your dad, I think about drums, and then the original drum is when you're inside your mom and you hear the heartbeat. That's the first thing you hear as an unborn child. It's your mom's heartbeat. So that's the original drum. That's why I like drums so much. Boom, 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 boom. And so music is that. It's a return to your in utero or whatever you want to call it. And then I can feel people's energy and make a song out of it or lyrics out of it very quickly. Whether it's someone's pain or their trauma or their no, let me rephrase. I can feel their true essence. I could just feel it. I just feel it so strongly. And then writing those songs is the best way of expressing that. So in terms of the technology, that's really grateful that type of technology is available now, because it's just such a powerful thing to be able to do that. And then the technology is getting better and better. I feel some of those AI songs are better than ones that humans make. They're that powerful. They are. I mean, they're just, and then the other thing is it doesn't have to be about shooting someone or something negative. It can be, a lot of the music industry is extremely negative because it's run by narcissistic people trying to sell stuff, and sale means dull and dirty. That's most things, by the way, but so it's a way of combating that.
Yeah, I wrote down the music soothes the soul. So it's a lot about what you were talking about in the right? So that was soothing for us as we were creating and being created. So I didn't even know about sound baths until we had somebody on our podcast that he owns a place in Chicago, and he told us about, what he did and how he healed himself from cancer and his partner from basically his deathbed from liver disease or something that he had. And so then as I was reading that part of your book, I couldn't help but think, there's got to be a way that music is tied to raising our vibration as humans. And how do we, get out of this, like you were talking about, kind of some of this negative music that we have out there, especially for our young kids, and get more into, I just love this word, unhypnotizing our society and being able to see how important it is to surround yourself with beautiful vibrations, which is what music is, right? And so how would you
That's where the visionary comes in, is they see that and then they do something. They create something that might be 20, 30 years ahead or even 2 or 3 generations ahead, and you just do it anyway. That's the whole point, is it's very clear what you're saying is that's obviously a really good solution. That's great. So create something. And then if people aren't ready for it now, then that's okay. That's what I've learned. I'm okay with that. And it's like the inventor of kindergarten. I'm okay with that. Or any of these authors that the people weren't ready for that type of, I was just reading about this Machiavelli, the prince, the tortured life that guy had. He wrote that book to get back into favor with political alignment, and it didn't materialize, but that didn't matter, Or Dostoevsky, my God, the tortured life that guy had, but created Crime and Punishment and Notes from Underground. If you haven't read it, or for those who haven't read it, I strongly recommend reading Notes from Underground. I think it used to be Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl was the powerful book I'd read. The Underground Man. He knew everything that was happening, but he was paralyzed. He couldn't do anything about it. And so he just lived in the shadows his whole life. And I cannot be like that. I just can't do it. No matter what happens, I'd rather go all the way to see what happens and then write about it or talk about it on things like this, or create companies that hopefully help people heal.
So you're talking about also rejecting rules. So that you...
What a rule. Stop signs and outlines are optional. That's not really true, but that's... yes.
I don't like rules, but...
Yeah, rules are made to be broken. Yeah, well, Life Path 5s, you don't, Life Path Freedom, there's no rules for Life Path 5s. And then 5s and 11s, it can be a total disaster. It could be a really good, harmonious thing. But the 11s have to be really patient with the
5s.
Oh my God, the patience and so much suffering. The other thing is, if this is helpful, for people looking for the right romantic partner, it is good to know your life path or human design. Life path 6s are really good matches because they're loving and sweet. Think a preschool or a special education teacher. They're just really sweet. I haven't met a 6 who's not extremely kind and loving. And then life path 7s are, if I can kind of swear, they're pains in the ass. They're really fucking pains in the They're pains in the ass for because they just are.
Wait, hold on. What makes them pains in the ass? What is it about their...
Well, my older son's a 7, and I said, he's going to be a great attorney, although he's arguing with me about that right now. They really like to argue. 9s are, for the 1 through 9s, they're the most spiritual. 1s can be extremely egoic and not as sensitive, which is really very difficult for an 11. 11s, I might not sound like it, but I'm extremely sensitive. 11s are the most sensitive, really sensitive. They're the most sensitive. And
yeah, because you have so much wisdom.
Oh, thanks for saying that. Yeah, because you're aware, and then it's confusing. And being a manifestor, you're well, why doesn't everybody see this? Well, because they're not ready. They're not ready for that. And that's so. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just when you're, when you see things so clearly and it's so obvious, and then maybe 1 out of 1,000 people understand that. It's definitely less than that, but based on my life so far, but. And then you just do it anyway. And then you're like, why does everybody care about this business crap? Like, why does everyone care about selling stuff? Well, because you see what the world has been made into. And you're like, well, this is not ever, people aren't happy doing this. I mean, why? No one is. No one. 0.0. Okay, well, that's great. That can be a very painful, isolating existence. And then again, when you really, 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 really care about somebody, like really, and you see the good in them, but they might not necessarily be ready to see that in themselves. That to me is the most, oh man, that's so painful, because you're like, don't you know how great you are? But they're not necessarily ready for that. And then they run from it. They're just running from themselves. That's, guessing it's happened with you a couple times. A lot of pain there. A lot of pain. It's okay. It's just part of life.
Yeah, it is. It's part of your learning experience. And it's, I mean, for me, it has been an ongoing thing that I've had to deal with. And even recently, it's kind of, you talked earlier about this control thing and like letting go of the outcome. That's probably my biggest thing that I have.
It's the last ego. That's the last bit of ego. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I literally just dealt with this, and I'm still going through it, where I just had to let go. And
personal or company stuff?
It's personal.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah. And I can't control what's going on, and it is what it is. And I had to reestablish that safety within myself and know that I've been able to be safe, come out on top, or what I thought was on top every time. But it's different for everybody, right? What they need and want, and what their visions are, and things like that. Kind of brings me a little bit to my next question for you. You talk a lot about visionaries and like being one, and kind of being able to create something from nothing and then actually make that happen. Can everybody do that, or no, you have to be more of like a manifester?
Everybody can do anything anyone could do that, but and whatever that means, creating something doesn't have to be a company, but they are their own to their own detriment. So I'm 49 years old, and then I'm like, I don't know, very old soul. My father was 61 when I was born, so he'd be 100. How old would he be? He'd be 110 now. So I really should be like 80, like an old soul. My dad was born in 1916, so I should have been born like 1940. I don't know, something like. And then one of my friends, he was like the main manager of Aerosmith. He's big in the music industry. His name's Keith Gard. And I'm like, I go, I'm like a 4-year-old. I'm like a 4-year-old. My heart's like a 4-year-old. I'm like a little kid. I'm just like a little kid. And he goes, oh, no, that's good. That's the right thing to be, because when you're 4, that's right before you start to get conditioned by school. You get, okay. So, oh yeah, I'm like a kid. And so everybody was 4 once. Everybody was. They were that little kid. They could have done anything then. I mean, I haven't met a kid that maybe 4, you start to see it, but like 3, they're not really afraid to do anything then. Not yet.
That's true.
3? Yeah.
2 to 3. I think my sister had a 2.5-year-old, and I think girls are a little bit more, they're not going to be as much. Yeah, they're more of a less risky, but I know boys, because that's what I have. They're more willing at that age to just go and do anything. Right. And that's why
I am. That's what I mean.
Moms are like, no, don't do that. Please stop.
Moms, because they've been conditioned that's what they've been conditioned to not. So, and then, pass that on to your children. So, but also, like, I'm trying to find that song I sent you to, and I'm just going to download it and send it to you in real time. So it was this, now this wasn't the case with my dad, because my dad was a great dad. But like people that struggle in relationships with their parents, there was this good exercise, or I was reading about it, and it's like, try to think of your mom or dad or your grandparents as like a 4-year-old, because they were 4 once. They were little kids, and then somehow that either literally got beaten out of them or it got conditioned out of them. I have one picture of my dad when he was a child, because that would have been 1920 or 1921. And he was sticking his tongue out at the camera, which is what I still kind of do sometimes. How many children do you have?
I have 2 of my own and then 3 from our marriage. So we have 5 total together. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of personalities. And I get to do it all. Well, so I have this other question. So like individuals, there's like a big difference between individuals. And I have had this whole thing going on recently in my thought process of so when I created my recruiting company, it was because I did not like the way that recruiting was done. I wanted everybody to be independent contractors that worked for themselves and then contracted out their knowledge, expertise, or their energy to companies or other people so that you could create services and products that served a higher purpose and goal, which is basically the visionary of whoever was creating those things, right? And to me, there's like, I don't know, how do I say this? Society has to evolve and get away from these large governments, large corporations, large businesses, and move more to individual abundance and freedom so that we can create more without so many like rules and regulations. So like for me, especially in this AI age, what advice would you give to, I know you have like a big network and stuff. What advice would you give to people who if they came to you and asked, how do we create this change? I know it starts at like the individual level, but then communities and stuff have to get together and support each other to make these changes. I know that's a big question.
Very difficult. It's very difficult. Well, the first thing is asking a question like you just did, is slowing down and then being aware of, hey, the situation I'm in or the things I'm doing, they're not fulfilling. And then it's stepping out of that and creating something that can do that. And what I will say is, what I've learned is most people are not going to do that. They're just not. They're going to stay in the job they don't like or the marriage that they're not happy in. They're going to. They're not going to do that. So knowing that, it's 1, realizing that's okay. And then 2, it's continuing to go. And then eventually, as I've learned, you find the people that are willing to do that or have those type of discussions, and then creating things with them. And that might take 50 years. It might take 60. It might not happen in your lifetime. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it.
But and to me, it's like, I still talk about it and ask those questions, and I'll do what I can to stay out of kind of whatever you call the rat race. But it's creating a new societal norm.
That's what's happening.
What 25-30% of us that are willing to think differently have to take this.
25%? No. 5%. Are you serious? That was a joke.
I don't know.
One out of 4 people?
Well, I know like a lot of the...
No. 1 out of 1,000, maybe 1 out of 1,000. One out of...
So that must be why I feel so alone.
No. 1 out of 4. Hold on. Wait, let me hold on. Wait. Let me slow down. You have 5 children. Go to a school. Go to a youth baseball game. Go to a youth... anything. Go anywhere and have this type of discussion. But what? 1 out of 4 people? What? Okay, so no. So, and I'm only bringing this up because that is the like. If it was 1 out of 4, oh my god, that would be great. So there's a book called The Fourth Turning. It was written 25 years ago. So what we're in now is like the fracturing part, and then there will be a rebirth. And so every 80 to 85 years in America, there's this war. Let's just say literally. So 85 years ago was World War II. Then before that it was Civil War. And then before that was the War of Independence. And so now we're having the war of, I guess I call it the war of your inner heart, the inner battle, or it could be another world war. That's very possible. I mean, that's very possible. But that type of thing, fortunately or unfortunately, is necessary. Think of it of like burning down a forest or a prairie. You got to burn stuff down to have that rebirth. And then after that is the rebirth. And so what people are seeing now, outliers, the fringe dwellers, whatever you want to call it, they're seeing what we're talking about. And then it's creating something within that. Oh man, if it was 1 out of 4, holy crap, that would be so great. One of my great friends, I was on his show. His name's Stephen Ibaraki. He said there was. I go to him. I go, you know how lonely it is to be like this. And he goes, and I asked him. I go, is there anyone on the planet? He said, this is what he said. You can watch the show if you want. He said the way I feel or communicate, it's 1 out of 1 billion people. One. So he said there's one person that he knows alive who's like, and so I go, oh, who is it? I'd like to meet him. And his name's Sir Roger Penrose. He won the Nobel Prize in mathematics, and then he got bored and created a new science based on consciousness, which is kind of what Epic Journey is. And then that guy, he's like 94. He's still alive. I'm like, oh, so there's one person. So it would be great. So but I'm okay with
go find him and hang out with him.
Well, yeah, he wanted to arrange a lunch with all of us, but he's old. So it's like, and then, I guess this also answers. So like my kids, they're like half like me, and then they're like half like my ex-wife. So she's a pediatrician. So like grounding, loving, logical, whatever the hell that means. And then they have like, they're really good athletes. They have friends in school. They're not lonely. Like they can communicate with people. So it's really good to, it's great to see that. They're going to have visionary lives, but then they're also going to have lots of friends. So it's not going to be a struggle for them to find people where they can communicate with. So that's a really great, I think unconsciously, my ex-wife and I chose each other because of that. Cause
Well, have you heard of the luminous kids? They're Dr. Edith. And do you know what I'm talking about?
Indigo children?
Yeah, basically. But Dr. Edith, and I cannot right now remember her last name. I'm sorry, but she created this thing called the Luminous Kids, and I put my son in it.
Send me that, please.
I will. And your sons are basically the same age as my youngest son. He's 12, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, but tapping into your different senses besides our 5 senses, she helps kids tap into their 6th sense, which is their intuitive knowing. And we went through the whole process, but your wife and you had the soul contract to bring these, what you want to call the kids that are in that age group. They're here to make that change. And they're taking the best of both parents. And so when you, like with my kids, I see differences in both of them, but my oldest son, he's a lot more like me. I now have to figure out what his numbers are. But
what's his life?
Yeah.
Well, tell
me. I will.
Well, what's his birthday? I'll just tell you where.
He's July 27th, 2009.
It's a spiritual. So
he told me a long time ago, he sees color, like auras around people.
He's a life path 9. He's spiritual. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. And then he also said one day I made him sit down and journal with me and do some meditation. He likes it, but he pretends like he doesn't. I said, okay, now write down what came to you. And he said, the dark and the light triad. That's what everybody is working through right now. And the dark is the ego and the light is, I don't remember exactly what he said, but something like the Mother Earth. And anyways, they're all of our kids are here to help with this.
So that's our role, is to like not condition our children to not beat that out of them. Like that's great. Good. Great. That's good. Don't forget that. Don't forget that when you're stuck in, he's 13. He goes, Dad, school's a prison. I go, yeah, it is. I go, you know that, right? Well, okay, so you have your bells and you have your meal time and play time, and you go from room to room, and libraries, prisons have libraries. So it's like,
look at the buses they're on.
Look at the buses. Good point. Good point. So that's all. And then, you wait in line to, you actually don't really have visitation in school. You kind of leave.
Yeah. You can't even get in. You have to show like your ID, and that you have to wait outside the door for the middle school.
Outside the door. And so I took, I don't really follow rules. So I took my younger son charter fishing last year, took him out of school to do that. And boy, waiting in that office, oh man. And I was like, and it was okay, but I'm like, how do people function in a place like this? They like it. And it's the same conversation every day. I'm like, how? but that's okay. People are like, they like to do that. They like it. Like, oh,
I get that. So I'm very much, so my one son, my older one, decided to stay home and do homeschooling.
oh, that was a good
last
idea.
year.
Good idea.
And he is the happiest. His whole life has changed, and I'm very happy he decided to do this. My other one is that he wanted to go to middle school, and I honored that.
It's okay.
But I don't really care about attendance. You know me, like I don't love rules. And so I was like, if you need a day off or you want to stay home and just sleep in, like, okay. So I kept getting these notes saying that I was like a bad parent,
You're
and
a terrible parent.
missed 10% of the classes or whatever. And they sent me an email that said, because your son is so terrible at attendance.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that email.
We're going to put him in a special like self-help class to understand how important it is to be in it.
Further conditioning. You got to condition him. He's not playing along with the bullshit. That's my point. So, okay, you got to further condition. Beat him, or medicate. Oh,
I'll send you the note. And I was like, no, I am not having my child in this. And you have him for enough of the time. He's not staying with you after school.
Prison. That's okay. So that's a good example. And we're very, very similar. Like as a human parent, father, I'm really glad that my children are going to have a lot of friends and that they're social and like they'll be able to navigate the human world much better than me, because it's really hard to be like this. It's extremely isolating. You know, when I go to their sporting events, I basically sit by myself because I can't, you know, it's just too, I try to tell people what I'm doing or, you know, my life. And it's just, for me, it's really hard to do it because they, you know, it's oh, that's great. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's,
they don't ask any other question. It's,
there's nothing to ask. So I'm trying to still think of 1 out of 4 people could, oh man, that would be.
All right. You proved me wrong. I was wrong. Please scratch that. But you're right.
Well, that's the goal. Maybe that's the seed to plant. Because think how great the world would be. Oh my God, it'd be so great. If 1 out of 4 people had a really good relationship with themselves, just 1 out of 4, 1 out of 10.
That's your goal. That's what you need to be doing.
Well, that's what I mean. But that is what I am doing. It's like trying. That's what I'm.
I understand what you're talking about. I actually wrote an article about this with the sporting events, and my one son, he's in baseball and he loves it and all that. And we go every weekend. I dedicate my weekends to support him and his dream or whatever. And I sit there with my book or whatever I'm doing. And in between the innings, I'm reading or doing whatever. And then, you know, because he's watching, I can't be looking at my phone or reading a book while they're playing. But also I sit alone because everybody else is hypnotized into this like 12-year-old baseball that means nothing.
Nothing.
The kids aren't having, well, some of them are having fun, but they're being yelled at and the coach keeps them after the game that they've already been there for a whole day or whatever.
The history of baseball. Yeah, get to learn the history of baseball after every game.
Exactly. And I'm like, what is this like ongoing speech that lasts for,
you know,
15, 20 minutes?
Yeah. No, so all it is ego. That's all it is. All of that. That's all of that is. It's pure ego.
I don't like it.
I know.
And sorry for all the parents who love it they love the sports.
Oh, well, okay. So if it's helpful, so my mom, who's a 33 life path master healer, she has less filter than I do. She's a really good grandma. She really loves my children. And so I was going to her at one of these games. I go, why do people like this so much? Like what? And she goes, no, you have to understand, especially for the moms, this is their only chance to have social interaction all day. Okay. And we were talking loudly in front of the other moms because she doesn't care. She doesn't care. She does not care. And then she's like, oh yeah, this is their only chance to be social with anyone else because they're miserable at home. I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you. And
yeah,
got some very inappropriate there.
I never thought about that, but it is.
But I had to talk to my mind because sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes it's good to have no filter because you just cut through all the BS. Now it gets you in trouble a lot. Sometimes, a lot. No, it gets you in trouble a lot. Especially
because
being
you're
an
breaking the norms and you're telling people what they need to hear,
well,
but are
well, that is true. Like, so as a manifestor, it's to create peace. It's not to cause problems. It's not. But social maturity, there's sometimes or many times where it's okay just not to say anything because there's nothing, it's not going to be helpful. It's going to be taken the wrong way. So I've had to learn that repeatedly. And then the other thing is like, me personally, I really appreciate it when someone's extremely direct with me or like says something that most people will consider negative. I actually really like it. I like it when people don't have a filter. I used to kind of get offended by it, but now I'm like, oh, that person's actually right. They're just kind of like, or not right or wrong, but they're just trying to be helpful.
And offer a different point of view. And it's good for us to see all angles of it. I want to go right back to this masculine and feminine thing. My next question. So you talk about how masculine and feminine need to work together to bring these much needed glitches. So walk me through what that looks like for the rebirth and evolution process.
In terms of I hate saying the word business because it means anxiety, but that's what the word people know. But in terms of a business structure, any company, with the exception of the first one, but that I've had has had a female partner. And then the networking company that my ex-wife ran, but my only goal for it was to have as many female members as possible. One, because in the entrepreneur world, there just aren't as many, but also it's a much more creative, patient, loving perspective. Essentially, everything that has been created in terms of that has been destructive to mankind has been created by an actual man. Everything. There's not really an exception to that. If you looked at any construct that has been created, it's basically been created by man. And I don't know if you've gotten to this point in the book, or maybe it even gotten edited. It might have gotten edited out. I can't remember. But so in the last 200 years, there's only been one war that's been primarily started by a woman, Indira Gandhi. That's only one major war.
Well, that makes sense because we have that kind of, we create life. We're creators and we don't want to destroy what we create.
Correct. But a male ego son will just like me will destroy everything unless I've destroyed anything. And and then by the way, that is necessary sometimes to destroy everything. Again, burning for it. So that's,
because it brings the evolution that you were talking about.
Crisis. You need that again, fourth turning, you kind of need, so you need both. It requires both. And then by the way, I don't know if this is like a breaking news story. Maybe it is, but you kind of need a man and a woman to make a child. I don't know if that's changed, but I don't know. That wasn't
I think it's pretty you can create, I guess you need more women. I guess you can take a man's sperm and help with more women.
Sperm. I hate it. So that's, and then again, if you simplify things pretty easily, then it kind of eliminates all this other nonsense, but there would be no life if things weren't creating more life. So we're here to create life. That's why we're here. And it's okay if you don't have actual children. That's okay. But that's why we're here. Because if we weren't here to do that, we wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. So that's really not arguable.
And can I add something too? It's also a little bit deeper where it's to create life. But if you take our understanding of whatever you want to say, God, the universe, whoever your higher power is, the life that we create here brings another fractal of reality. So when you create something that's never been created before, now there's another way to look at infinite ways of different outcomes, if that makes sense, right? So like you're here to create on Earth because this is the earthly plane is to create. And no other plane can you do that and not know what the outcome's going to be. And so you're creating a different outcome. So you're adding to statistical probability. And that's getting probably too deep for most people, but I don't know if you're on the same wavelength there, but I guess it could create your glitches that you talk about, because somebody's going to come here and do something extraordinary that God or the universe hadn't thought of before. And that's when we create life, we're bringing that opportunity into existence.
It's very simple. So like, it could be creating a child, it could be creating a company, it could be creating a song, it could be planting a tree. Whatever that is, it's life. That's what whatever, it can be an actual human life, or it could be something that's alive in a different way. I think with this music, the music is alive, or, creating a healing center or a book. You create something that is alive. And the alternative is conditioning yourself out of that, or being conditioned out of that. And once you're aware of that's what's really happening in the world, then there are only two choices. One, you can just go along with it, or two, do something about it. First alternative does not work. It just doesn't work for me. So
as we're ending the time together, give the listeners one principle or practice or idea that can open up their minds and help them have their epic journey that they could start applying immediately.
Well, I've said this already in some construct, but if you love somebody, tell them. That's it. I mean, none of this other stuff really matters to me. That's it. And if you love somebody, then you love them unconditionally.
It's beautiful. Last question. Who are you under everything, with all of your titles stripped away? Author, father.
I'm just a big heart.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Justin, do you have anything else you want to tell listeners that maybe I didn't ask you today before we end?
I was a journalist for 20 years. That was always the question I asked last. Anything you hadn't brought up? Because then sometimes somebody wanted to say something, but they weren't asked in there. So I appreciate this opportunity, and I do hope the book makes a big impact now and many years from now. And I do feel there's a path to being in this world and being a good parent or husband or spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. And then also creating things that help people. I think there's a good path to that. Good path.
So follow your heart, everybody, and tell everyone that you love them, that are close to you today and every day. We love you. Thank you very much for listening and tuning in to Remember You. And remember, practice peace at least once a day. Love you guys.